Namaskar. In this episode of Dil Se, we'll talk about something that has rocked the nation. We're not going to talk about the merits of what happened or what didn't happen, nor do we want to attribute fault, because an inquiry is ongoing about an incident that happened on the 14th of this month on Holy Day at the residence of a judge. And hell broke loose. Pursuant to that, all kinds of stories are being bandied about in the media. Some say 15 crores, some say more than 50 crores. We're not going to go into that because I don't think anybody can even assess how much money there was, if there was any money at all. But what are the ramifications of an incident of this nature? What does it tell you about the state of the judiciary? What does it tell you about the lack of an institutional mechanism to deal with issues of this nature? Whether it is the incident of the 14th, whether it's true or not, we don't know, or something that Justice Shekhar Yadav said, who is a sitting judge of the Allahabad High Court, or something that Ranjan Gogoi was alleged to have done, or something that Justice Gangopadhyay, sitting as a judge of the Calcutta High Court, openly suggested his political leanings, and thereafter became a member of the Lok Sabha from the BJP. What does it also tell you about the nature of politics that we are seeing in Parliament today? The moment such an incident happened, you had the chairman of the Rajya Sabha call an all-party meeting where he discussed about reviving the NJAC, which had been struck down by the Supreme Court. The 2014 Act had been struck down by the Supreme Court as unconstitutional. So, taking this as an opportunity to start the debate once again to ensure that the Collegium system doesn't continue. And what about allegations made on the floor of the House without any proper investigation? What impact does that have on the lives of those who are being accused of an alleged wrongdoing? What impact does that have on the judicial system itself? And over and above that, should the media not be responsible for investigating the matter before putting out allegations of this nature? What then is the responsibility of the media in matters of this nature? You remember that when it's the case of Sushant Rajput, how Riya Chakravarti was alleged to have been responsible for his death. And when the Bihar election was on, how that was used by the media, by certain sections of the media, to politically in favor of a particular political party. So all these issues are going to be discussed by us today and by three extraordinary people who are with me today. First of all, Justice Madan Lokur, who we all know, belongs to my alma mater, St. Stephen's College, practicing in the High Court in Delhi for a long time, and then, of course, became a judge in the Delhi High Court. Then thereafter, he became the Chief Justice of Guwahati, acting Chief Justice of Delhi High Court, then went as Chief Justice of Guwahati, then came to Andhra Pradesh, and then to the Supreme Court in 2012, and he was a judge till 2018. Thereafter, he retired. Several seminal judgments are attributed to him, which we won't talk about today, but he later became a judge of the Fiji Supreme Court. And now, presently, he is the chairperson of the UN Internal Justice Council, which is, I think, perhaps the only Indian who's got this position. And I think it's one of the most responsible positions within the system because you have to deal with all kinds of very complex issues relating to appointment of judges. So thank you very much for being here.
Yeah,
Justice J.Gupta, we know from Himachal. Actually, first 7 years of my life I lived there. I studied at St. Edward's. We were practicing there, president of the Himachal Association, Advocates Association, became a judge of the Himachal High Court in 2004. Yeah. and thereafter you went to Tripura as the Chief Justice. First you were acting Chief Justice in Himachal, then to Tripura, then you went to Chhattisgarh, and thereafter became a judge in 2017 in the Supreme Court and retired in 2020. Several seminal judgments also attributed to you. We won't talk about them, but thank you for being here. Siddharth, what should I say about you? You're everywhere.
The less the better.
You're everywhere. I must say that if I start counting the awards that you've got, I mean, it'll take the whole evening. So I won't do that. But you've been the editor of The Hindu, right? The first non-family member to be the editor of The Hindu. Before that, you were, in 2004, joined The Hindu as a strategic affairs editor, worked as a journalist in the Times of India, taught economics at the New York University and journalism at the University of California. You studied at the London School of Economics, Columbia University, Ramnath Goenka Award in 2010. And you've got so many international awards. We won't go into it today, but thank you very much for being here. Let me ask you, Justice Lokur, what does this tell you about the state of the judiciary? And are there any mechanisms in place to actually deal with issues of corruption in the judiciary?
Yes, thank you, Kapil. You see, there have been discussions. People have expressed views that there is a problem with the judiciary. It's not only now, but for the last several years. So every once in a while, something happens, and again the discussion starts. So you've had in the recent past, you had mentioned Justice Shekhar Yadav. He gave a speech in the Allahabad High Court, which was, I think, communally inappropriate.
Organized by the VHP, I believe.
Organized by the VHP. There was a lot of talk about it, and I believe members of the Rajya Sabha have moved an impeachment motion against him in December. A decision has not yet been taken by the chairman of the Rajya Sabha. So, that became a flashpoint on the judiciary and the independence of the judiciary, the ideological, compulsions. Before that, you had mentioned about Justice Gangopadhyay, Calcutta High Court. Now, you have this incident. So every once in a while, something or the other happens, and people talk about the credibility of the judiciary and the independence of the judiciary. These are two things which have, I think, been troubling everybody for quite some time now. Now, at the present moment, one of the things that has happened is that in the case of the Delhi incident, an in-house inquiry has been initiated by the Chief Justice of India. But in the other case of the communally inappropriate speech, there is no in-house inquiry that has been initiated. Now, that speech, one could say it is hate speech, or it borders on hate speech, but whatever it is, what was said was not appropriate. So, could something have been done through an in-house inquiry to discipline the judge, as it is sought to be done now? Could something have been done, to Justice Gangopadhyay when he was the judge of the Calcutta High Court through in-house inquiry? These are questions which I think we need answers. I can tell you that, I was a member of one of these in-house committees in 2008 with regard to a judge in the Punjab-Haryana High Court. We gave a report to the Chief Justice of India. As far as I know, nothing happened immediately, but later on the judge was transferred out from Punjab-Haryana High Court, perhaps on the basis of the report. A case was filed by the CBI. The CBI said that the CBI filed a closure report, said nothing is made out. There were objections raised.
I see.
And the judge also said that, you better investigate all over again. So soon after that, I don't know what year, but the CBI prosecution started. The judge has retired. One of the accused persons has died. We are now maybe 10 years or 15 years down the line. Nothing has happened. So the mechanism that we have may be working in some ways, right? But working for the immediate problem. But it does not have a long-term solution, like I said about this particular judge.
Why was there no transparency when it came to Justice Yadav?
I don't know. Similarly, why was there no transparency when it came to Justice Gogoi?
Yes. Why was there no transparency?
Yeah.
You talk about transparency now.
Yeah.
Right? And what has this transparency done, Justice Gupta? Let me ask you.
See, I think what the Chief Justice in the Collegium has done now is better than before. That there has to be, question can be asked, why transparency now? But it's better late than never. I think it's better that they're out in the open. See, put yourself in the place of the Chief Justice in the Collegium. If you don't put the material on record, then you're damned. If you put the material on record, that you're putting the institution at stake.
Right.
But coming back to the question, Kapil, that you asked, see, removal of judges is not easy. The impeachment process is very political.
Dysfunctional.
It really cannot work as a method to deal with errant judges.
Right.
There has to be an in-house mechanism, which is there, but it's almost non-dysfunctional. Leaving aside the present instance, the two instances you named before of Justice Yadav and Justice Gangopadhyay, in those there was no inquiry required, frankly, in my opinion. Because Justice Yadav didn't deny what he had said.
Correct.
Justice Gangopadhyay gave a speech about a case, gave a press interview about a case which he was hearing.
Yes, absolutely.
Which violated the restatement of values of 94. What else was required?
Right. And yet by Justice Gangopadhyay, no action was taken.
So there, what was lacking was the will. I mean, I don't think the system was at fault. It was just the will not to take action against him or even against Justice Yadav. One hears that he was asked to apologize and all. I don't know whether apology in such a case is sufficient. But even if an apology was deemed sufficient, but then there's no apology in the public domain.
But he hasn't apologized.
No. There was I read somewhere that he has apologized to the Collegium. I mean, that is no apology. It's the apology to the people he has hurt. That is what...
But let me follow up on a question that you just mentioned. You said, what could the Chief Justice... Now, I'm not questioning what the Chief Justice did, but I'm just asking you a question. If this kind of transparency results in placing before the people of this country a piece of evidence, let's see, which is not verified. So if you put a piece of evidence which is not verified and it is presumed to be true without being verified, what kind of transparency is that?
No, you're damning the person against whom the evidence
So therefore I was asking you that question. You said, what could he do? I'm just asking you that question.
You see, I mean, the social media would want that the Chief Justice of India should have himself gone to that room and searched with for the...
So why should you...
But he shouldn't be. I'm not saying...
Why should he fall prey to the social media?
No, but there's somewhere this... I think in today's day and age, you'll have to accept it that even for the... Unfortunate. I'm not saying that this should be, but it is unfortunate. It will affect the man's career.
No, forget the man.
No, but you're right. No, but we are dealing with human beings. Finally, it's his family, everybody.
I mean, that's secondary, quite, sir. I'm sorry to say, that's secondary. If you ask me, my own opinion, and I'll come to you, Siddharth, my own opinion is, if he is proved guilty, the judiciary is damned. If he is proved not guilty, the judiciary is damned.
I agree with you on both, but when it comes to the action being taken...
No, once you say that I'll place in the public domain unverified material, what you are doing is damaging the institution yourself. Now, I don't know, I'm not privy to that information, nor am I wanting to criticize, but I'm trying to elaborate, I'm trying to find out what is the rationale for doing that. And I'll come to you, Siddharth, on that.
So, before I answer that, I would say that you have the four instances where allegations have been made against judges in the last 4 or 5. I would say 5 actually. Gangopadhyay and Yadav, Justices Gangopadhyay and Yadav. Two people actually where, as you say, no inquiry is needed. It's the open and shut matter. Yet the Collegium or the higher judiciary chose not to not only take action, but to basically be party to, I would say, covering up the whole thing, brushing it under the carpet. In the next set of cases, which is Mr. Gogoi, you have allegations that are made public by complainants of. In the case of Gogoi, it was Mr. Gogoi. There was an allegation made by the woman who said she was a victim. So directly by a complainant. In these instances, there was some kind of an inquiry, some kind of an in-house process, but the proceedings were never disclosed. I would say in the case of Mr. Gogoi, the complaints, even the complainant was not shown the logic of why her complaint was dismissed. And I think that's a real failing on the part of the Supreme Court and the Collegium. In this case, where, as you say, the evidence that emerged, actually first emerged in the form of WhatsApp. Some of these videos were circulating actually, and the provenance of the video is not known. One only hopes that the court has a fair sense, because frankly, judging from the correspondence that has been put out in the public domain, and frankly, as a journalist, I think you're right that this is at one level unverified in the eyes of the public and putting it out. But in this day and age, this material is already out there. And
No,
I think
it was not.
Oh no, the
Not
video.
before,
no, the videos were widely. I mean, we had seen those videos.
No, you saw it later.
No. The videos were kind of, well, they were not. They were people who were privy to it.
That's true.
Yeah,
There you're
and
right.
reporters who had seen it.
But
We know the Bar Council, for example. The Bar Association in Allahabad, the kind of statement that the man made, he even
That was much later,
estimated the figure. But so there's this material that was circulating. There were rumors that were circulating.
True.
And frankly, I don't know how much of the specifics you said you don't want to get into. I think that the case that is, laid out in those documents is not as open and shut as those who want to damn Justice Yadav would like it to be, right? So I think there's plenty there that leaves a lot of scope. Lots of questions get raised by this, right?
Yeah, but we are not really.
Correct. Exactly. We're not going to that. But I think as a journalist, I appreciate this transparency in the sense that this material is out there. It's much better than dealing with the kind of mad rumors that were circulating. And I think somewhere down the line, the Collegium probably thought that, look, given the kind of fevered speculation that was happening on social media, but also in the media as a whole, right? That is probably better to put this stuff out in the public domain. And I think that was a judgment call they made. I think you're right to say, why was such transparency not shown? I think in the earlier 4 cases, there was a much more compelling case for material to be put out in the public domain. They chose not to do it. They've done it here. I will reserve judgment as to whether it was right. From the point of view of natural justice,
we're just having a debate.
Yeah.
Maybe
but I would
maybe
say
not.
that that still doesn't excuse the way a lot of people on the media have commented on this. Journalists, when information is out there, like even if you look at the way the story first emerged, right? My initial instinct when I saw the first report was to not trust the story at all. And I won't go into why I felt that way, but where it appeared, how the story, just going by my past experience, I didn't trust it. Then more and more legal reporters were doing the same thing, and it was clear that there was some kind of information that they were getting. And we now know with the benefit of hindsight that those reports were based on information that was, I wouldn't call it authentic information because it's yet to be authenticated, but this was information being given to them by, I presume, somebody in the court who was privy to this. Because they're all legal correspondence.
We don't know.
And but they essentially had as they say in Hindi, mota, the details were what is reflected in these documents. But then the whole narrative took on a life of its own. People began speculating, and what is worse, unlike there was almost uniform willingness to jump to a conclusion that this evidence suggests one thing, that the man is guilty, and that's the way in which the entire coverage went.
Yeah,
so I think that's where there's a big problem.
In the light of what you said, I'll just follow up and ask Justice Lokur. He says that, to quell rumors, to quell speculation, it is better to have put this in the public domain. But having put it in the public domain, there are more rumors, there is more speculation, how much money it was it 15, was it 50, was it 100, who did it, actually it has been planted, no it's not been planted, it was found the next Sunday, a Sunday thereafter on the roadside. There's no speculation, there is speculation, there are rumors. So one way or the other, this would have happened. So this is not to prevent rumors or speculation. I think we are dealing not with an individual. We are dealing with an individual, but we are also not dealing with an individual. We're dealing with an institution. And when you're dealing with an institution, the institution must first realize that its integrity is sacrosanct.
Yes.
And to protect it is sacrosanct. And anything that questions its own integrity, unless verified, should not be in the public domain. This is my opinion. I may be wrong, and I want yours.
Yes. You see, in my opinion, the Chief Justice of India, having decided to constitute an in-house committee, I think he should have left it to the committee to take a call. If the committee feels that it should be put in the public domain, fine. If the committee feels that no, you see, we want to be sure that the video is authentic, we want to be sure that, the stories that are going around about the crime scene, so to speak, are correct, the committee can take a call.
Yes.
So I would have, felt better. I'm very much in favor of transparency.
Oh yes, all of us are.
I want to be clear about that.
Yes.
But in a situation like this, when an in-house committee was contemplated and was in fact constituted maybe soon thereafter, I think it would have been better to leave it to the judgment of the committee. What should be disclosed to the public and what should not be disclosed to the public. Otherwise, you've mentioned about Sushant Singh Rajput.
Yeah, exactly.
Every day, there would be a new story coming out, and the print media, the audiovisual media was just going to town. Or Aryan Khan, Shah Rukh Khan's son.
Yes.
There are selective leaks.
Yeah, but those are individual cases, and I respect what you're saying.
Yeah.
But here we're dealing with the whole judicial system.
Right.
Which is far more serious.
You're right. So therefore,
Yes.
For the integrity of that system, an in-house committee has been constituted.
Correct.
So let them decide.
Exactly. That's the point I was coming to.
I beg to differ.
Good. So that's why we're having this conversation.
My opinion is that given the uproar which was happening, which Mr. Varadarajan pointed out also, they needed to even give some basic material, why they were appointing you see, this was when they constituted the committee and why they were constituted. So this was the material which was before them, so why they constituted the committee. They could have said, by hindsight, we can all, but I think the 5 top judges, in my opinion, took the right decision to just put it in the public domain.
Very well. Now, okay, so having said that, okay, fine. They put it in the public domain. Then what's happened thereafter is even more serious. You had important constitutional authorities saying 15 crores. Where did they get 15 crores from? Is it not the responsibility of constitutional authorities? Somebody from the judiciary could have made a statement like, this should not happen. All this is under investigation. If there is transparency, there must also be protection.
Yeah.
Right? None of those steps have been taken. See what's happening in the social media. Now, something should be done to ensure that it doesn't damage the institution any further. And that's very, very important.
No, I agree with you. Yeah. What I find also...
And what are the responsibilities of journalism in this, or journalists in this?
No, journalists have a huge responsibility, so do all these other constitutional authorities. What I find a bit odd, and this has been commented on before also by retired judges and certainly by bar associations, that this reflects, and even though the court tried to issue a statement to clarify that the initial decision to transfer was not linked to all of this, but it's very clear that it is. So to pretend that it's not is to kind of add a further layer of subterfuge, which is not necessary. But this idea that you transfer a judge to another court when there's an allegation. I mean, either you have an in-house procedure and the person stops handling work in the court where they are until this thing is handled in a reasonable period of time. Yes. I think that's a fair. It's like there's a charge against a minister. Minister may relinquish charge for a while. It's like saying there's an accusation against a railway minister, so send him to urban development. This makes no sense at all. And so when the bar associations, and this is not the first time it's happened. I think I recall at least 5 or 6 times in the past where judges were sent off, and there was the order of punishment attached to those transfers, and the recipient court bar association was saying, "Look, what is this? Why are we getting these people?" So there's something very peculiar about this, which the court has to. I think they should stop this business of transferring to another court. But on the question of responsibility of journalists, Kapil, you're right. I mean, I think that it's. As somebody from the profession, like you, perhaps even more than you, I cringe when I see a lot of coverage particularly on television, where, and it's not just in this case, many cases where there's a.
We pressured the Supreme Court, and they have done this.
I mean,
that's the kind of headlines you see.
Where there's a kind of rush to judgment.
Yes.
And but I would say that the problem also comes up. For example, how should a reporter who gets the leak, like we now know that 4 or 5 of them got that leak on the 21st of the fact that the Collegium had there was a full court meeting and a certain decision was taken, and ideally when you cover something where there's an allegation against a person, then you go to that person but here the judge is not speaking. And so the dilemma for a reporter and his or her editor is that do I not cover the story until I have a chance to get the accused person to speak? That's not going to happen, right? So I don't fault anybody for having done the stories on day one, even though it was well before any document that the Supreme Court had put out. But it's what happens later, and how you then have editorializing on this news. It's still just a question of an accusation being made, but that gets converted into conviction.
Yeah.
Yes.
And then the whole point is hammered home through these obscene panel discussions where political lines immediately get drawn, and then this
But
phrase.
should the judiciary not do something about it? I'm asking you.
I'm not. I don't. Frankly, I don't.
I know what your position is going to be.
I don't
but
want
I still
anybody.
ask.
I think that the media needs to exercise restraint.
Yes.
It's just that if we allow sub judice matters to become, in other words, compromise media's coverage under the guise of that this is sub judice, a whole bunch of topics will then become.
No. I'm not on sub judice at all. I'll give you. Let me just test this story.
Yeah.
We forget about the truth and the merits. Somebody gets information that this has happened. He's a journalist. Whoever gets that information has to verify it as a journalist.
Yeah.
Right? Was that done?
Well,
You can't verify it because he would have had to find out from the judge. He would have sent an email to the judge. This is what has been found. What's your response? Which you normally do. Right? He did none of that. He would, at least I don't see it.
Yeah.
Right? The story was not verified. A leak was there.
Yeah.
Some information was there. And then front page in Times of India. It's front page and some other thing. Right?
Yeah.
Now, what is then the responsibility?
No, but if you see, there's lots of stories that are done on the basis of information that a journalist herself or himself cannot verify, right? So what journalists and editors do to get around this problem is that you make sure you don't rely on a single source.
Right, you go to the police commissioner, you go to the...
Ideally more than one source. In this kind of story, I would say, 2 or 3 sources, right? My hunch is, and I'm assuming that these are responsible court reporters, my hunch is that they would have got the story, and I hate to cast aspersions at any sitting judge,
I'm not
but they would have covered their themselves by ensuring the authenticity by talking to 2 or 3 sitting judges.
Fine. Now that's the other problem.
Yeah.
Right? Once you say that, that creates a further problem. That creates a further problem, Justice Gupta. Now I want to ask.
When Justice Lokur and I, sometimes we would, in the morning, having a cup of coffee, we'd come to know about a news which none of us knew about. That's right. And we would say that this particular reporter has he has close links to some particular judges.
So the answer is, if that
it
leak
comes
had
from-
not taken place, this would not have happened.
Yeah, that's true.
Now,
But
this is a very serious issue.
Kapil, I'd like to add to what Mr. Varadarajan said about transfer.
Yes,
We have started using transfer as a mode of punishment.
Yeah.
that's true.
That's very, very
Yes,
unfair, and unfair to the smaller courts.
yes. Yes, you are right.
I belong to Himachal. I was first Chief Justice of Tripura. And you ask the people in Sikkim, anybody who's found wanting somewhere else is shunted off to a small court. What they don't realize is that he may be number 20 or 25 or 11 in his own court, where either you take him off work or give him some innocuous sort of work, which is, there are many cases where they won't have much chances to do hanky-panky. But you send him to smaller courts, him or her, and they become the J1 or J2 there. They're heading the Collegium. Can you imagine they're part of the Collegium? What damage they can do to the institution. So, and I think today what worries me about this case, more than the fact about the money being found or not being found, is not that. The ramifications are much more.
Exactly.
What has now that bring back the NJAC? I'm not a great supporter of the Collegium system. I'm not at all. I've never been a supporter of it. But can we hand over appointments totally to the executive? That would be, throwing the baby with the bathwater. It'll be
Even
something.
under this system, things are pretty bad in terms of.
I think this system is also opaque.
Yes.
We have to come up with a better system. We can't do it in a discussion over 45 minutes, but we have to think of systems, and we can't totally ignore and say that the government has no place in the talks. Frankly, the government will have to have place in the talks. But I'd rather have the government nominee on the table sitting with the Collegium, discussing matters with them, than coming in secretly from behind and talking to 1 or 2 or maybe slightly more pliable judges and then putting his pressure on them. Rather have a clear-cut discussion across the table. Sometimes there are, in the Collegium, you have good judges, you have ordinary judges, you have very good judges, and they can forcefully put forth their views.
See, if all the members of the Collegium had agreed to give this information to a journalist, I'll accept that.
No, I think this is a Collegium decision. This is not the decision of the Chief Justice.
No. That all of them decided.
The initial leak you're talking about.
Initial leak.
Okay.
I can accept that. That look, all of them put their minds and said, this must be told to the media. I can accept that. If one of them did it or 2 of them did it, I don't know.
No, we
because
don't.
that's speculation. I think it's very dangerous.
No, but I think the last which has come
Very,
out,
very dangerous.
what has come out on the Supreme Court website is by the Collegium.
No, that's different. That I was talking about. See,
The first, I don't know.
That's the problem. And that's where it destroys the future of the institution.
I was being facetious when I said several judges. I suspect that source is one judge and then corroborated by, because such things are also known by staffers in the court, right? So there's ample, a resourceful journalist has lots of doors that she or he can knock on to get information if they have a good rapport with somebody and they've been known to respect confidentiality. So, journalists have ways of, but what you are pointing to, and I agree with you, that the danger of the sort of the strategic leak, like when a leak is done with a purpose, journalists need to be attuned to that. And the question often, like, it's not as if information is, like in the career that I've had as a journalist, information is leaked.
See,
you make an assessment that, okay, why is this person telling me what she or he is? And then you make an assessment on that basis. The editor will also want to know, right? And then you proceed. So I just hope and presume that the Times of India, where the story first appeared, thought through this entire thing in a kind of rational way. I don't know.
What do you say, Justice Lokur, to this kind of if there is a selective leak,
I'm not frankly prepared to buy the idea of a selective leak.
Okay.
Or the idea of a collective leak,
Yes.
all the members of the Collegium. The reason is that one of the rumors that was going around was that the person has been transferred to Allahabad High Court. And obviously somebody in the Supreme Court came to know about this rumor, and a couple of days later, or maybe the same day, there was a press statement. right,
Yes.
That
That
no
is
such-
unrelated to this.
that no such decision has been taken.
Yes.
It is unrelated to this, and no such decision
Correct.
has been taken. Now, if all the members of the Collegium had given that leak, then this press statement would not have been necessary.
Yes, you're right.
Okay, and if one or two of them gave that leak, then it is extremely unfortunate.
Yes.
So I don't know, whether everybody gave a leak. I doubt if everybody gave a leak. If one or two gave a leak, I don't think that's likely, in the sense that you were talking about a strategic leak. What is a strategy?
No, I'm saying a leak with a purpose.
Okay, what was the purpose of making the leak?
I don't know.
It can't be that, listen, I want to denigrate the judiciary, I want to denigrate the system, so let me leak it out. I don't buy that.
Then it's
at
possible
all.
the leak didn't come from the judiciary.
Yeah,
it's possible.
yeah,
it's
yeah,
possible.
it's possible.
We don't know. We don't
In
know.
all
Yeah.
probability, not, but they had to handle it.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're right. They had to handle it, and I think it could have been handled better. One attempt was made through that press statement. I think maybe another one should have been.
But I think your assessment that however this story goes now,
Yeah.
guilty
The
or
judiciary is
innocent.
damned. Judiciary is damned.
Judiciary is damned, yeah.
This is the real problem I have. That's why I'm concerned. We've been in this court,
No, unless it emerges that there is actually a conspiracy, and you can't rule that
Even
out.
then
either.
the judiciary is damned,
No,
because
because-
people don't believe. See,
You see, then nobody is going to believe that then they'll say it's a cover-up.
you know, Siddharth, that nobody will believe that also. Because you've put yourself out in the public domain that, look, this is what's happening in my institution, without first conducting a full-fledged inquiry or it prima facie coming to some kind of conclusion. That's the worry that I have, which is why I've been insisting on this. Because otherwise it's very, very dangerous. Because we're dealing with, this is the only institution that protects democracy, it protects us. We have two judges sitting here who did it throughout their career, right? Who fought for liberty, who fought against police excesses, who fought against the Bhasin's case which you did, Jammu and Kashmir, internet shutdowns. These are people who, and if we lose that out,
So then if I pick up what...
let me tell you some other thing. And I don't want to say it, and I shouldn't say it publicly. The fact is, we know, and I'm sure the judges know, who does what in the judiciary. Why don't they do something about it? You think that these things are not known to people? Therefore, the system needs complete overhaul.
Yeah.
There's no doubt about that. We need. See,
That's why we are pained.
We can't sort of hide our heads in the sand and say
Exactly.
there's no corruption in the
Exactly.
See, but then the need is to identify the ones who are corrupt and take action. I'm not talking about this case in itself, but as a general. Unfortunately, the perception in the public is that the only action which is taken is the transfer,
Yes.
which is not a punishment at all. And if at all it's a punishment, it's the punishment to the people of the state to where the person is transferred.
Yeah. I want to pick up on something that Justice Gupta said. This renewed debate on NJAC.
Yeah.
There is a phrase that our Prime Minister has used often, which is "Apada mein afsar." Right? So you look for an opportunity in this kind of a. Of course, he was talking about natural calamity, but this is a calamity.
This is a national calamity.
That's hit the judiciary, and
National calamity.
there, frankly, my antenna, are finally attuned to the Honorable Vice President plus lots of other people saying that we need to reopen this debate, and frankly, the question that people are asking is that it never occurred to you to reopen this debate during the Gogoi episode. Instead, you actually brought him and put him into the Mr. Gogoi into the Rajya Sabha, and you've happily accepted a judge into the BJP party. You've happily, in fact, the Chief Minister of Uttar Pradesh has defended what Justice Yadav said. So in 3 out of these 5 recent instances, you've shown no concern. There's
no talk of NJAC.
There's no talk of NJAC or any problem in selecting judges.
I think this the overall aspect. I think overhaul may be a little strong word to use, but yeah, there is a lot that needs to be done. But the appointment of judges is a completely different aspect.
I agree entirely, yes.
You can't say that I want to overhaul or change the system.
Without changing.
So, yeah, let me first begin by the appointment system. That is something completely different from what has happened.
Yes.
So, I think this debate on the NJAC or reviving the NJAC or whatever, I think is not necessary at all.
Yeah, but the Collegium system is not functioning.
It's not functioning,
so
fine.
then what do you do about it?
Yeah, but then that's a separate debate.
No, I agree with you. I agree with you.
Yeah.
I agree with you.
So we need to improve the Collegium system, okay? And by making a statement here or making a statement there or calling a few people here and there to say that, listen, we need to bring about a change is not enough. It has to be discussed thoroughly. We are talking about the independence of the judiciary.
Correct.
All right? We need judges who are independent. We need judges who are honest and who will remain honest.
Correct.
During their tenure, right? We need judges who are competent. It's not that you say that this guy is going to remain honest and let's make him a judge. So what if he's incompetent? So these things have to be thought about, and you can't do it, over a couple of days.
Yes.
Probably you need to have a huge discussion.
Yes.
Involving stakeholders.
Correct.
It could be legislators, it could be bureaucrats, it could be judges, it could be lawyers.
Yes.
It could be the person on the street.
The litigants.
Yes, litigants, yes,
yes. Persons who are in the know of things, people who are journalists,
Right.
Others. Have a discussion, brainstorm for a month, 2 months, 3 months, because what you're going to do is you're going to set something into motion which will protect the independence of the judiciary for years and decades to come.
I agree.
So don't be in a hurry.
In some ways, perhaps the most important, most urgent matter is remedy, right? In the sense that, like you were saying that there was no inquiry needed in the case of Justice Yadav or Gangopadhyay. But what is the step, let's say stick with Yadav right now, because he's still the serving judge. What is the remedy in the hands of the best-willed collegium? Only that they can instruct the High Court chief to not assign any work. That's it. Right? You can't, maybe the idea of impeachment being solely in the hands of Parliament was meant as some kind of a protection safety valve. But then, when you have, when a judge curries favor with the party which has a majority in Parliament, then he or she knows that there's never going to be any danger of impeachment, right? So I don't know how the circle can be squared so that you have some way of discipline.
I'll tell you. You have an inquiry, in-house inquiry, like it's being held. Have it quickly. Set it into motion right now and, say that, listen, we want a decision in 1 week, 10 days, 15 days, a reasonable period of time. Okay? And if the report is against the person, then you come to, make it public.
Make it public and prevent him from don't assign him any work.
Don't assign him any work for that period.
Right. And if it's a criminal offence, lodge an FIR because all you need is the sanction of the Chief Justice of India under Veeraswamy's case.
Yeah.
That's all you need. It's easy.
There's a couple, even taking off from what Justice Lokur said, and he's rightly, very eloquently put forward what is required of a judge. I mean, I know, I agree with him, you can't discuss it, but I want to put a few feelers what
Sure.
could be things which, for me the biggest worry is the High Court appointments. These are the people who are going to come to the Supreme Court.
Correct.
In many High Courts, the Chief Justice and one of the other members of the Collegium is from outside the High Court.
Yes.
And here we don't have people coming for 3, 4 years, they come for 6 months on transfer, 4 months. And they are now relying upon somebody else. And probably the Chief Justice sits with the junior most, so he becomes his eyes and ears. I think for High Courts, you need to to ensure that the Collegium consists more of the local people, senior local judges there.
Yeah.
Yes, yes,
Where there are benches of the High Court,
yes.
then the people from those benches, if they are to be considered, then you put those people into the Collegium. Or into the body, whatever you call it, a Collegium or whatever
Correct,
body.
correct, correct.
But for me, the most important two
No, I agree,
factors.
I agree.
The two important factors for
Also,
me.
also the district court level. That's the other very important
Yeah.
thing. But that's another debate.
So these are things which, you have a system.
Yes.
Here you have a Chief Justice who's there for a couple of months. You have a J1 who may have been 6 months or who's also from outside. I can name at least 5 high courts today where 2 or 3 of the senior most judges are from outside.
Karnataka.
Karnataka, I think Telangana.
All three are from outside.
Telangana, Tripura, the top 2 judges are from outside. See, there are so many, I mean, even with
Punjab?
Punjab, yes.
Yes.
So then you could name so many.
Yes.
See, the problem becomes that the Chief Justice is not seeing their work.
Yes.
And what work does the Chief Justice see? He sees only the people who are doing writ petitions or public interest litigation, but mainly the roster is that.
Right.
He doesn't see criminal lawyers, he doesn't see civil lawyers, he doesn't see taxation lawyers.
Right.
So we must have a better system of appraisal.
Okay. Another day for that debate.
But that still wouldn't address the awful gender imbalance you have in appointments.
No,
That's
another debate.
That's okay,
So
another
that- we are-
No, I'm just saying. But 2 things, two more points. One, a common retirement age.
Yeah.
If the Supreme Court Collegium system is to succeed, it can only succeed if there is a common retirement age.
Okay.
I've been reading Gad Boys on this holiday, reading Gad Boys again, and so many of the Chief Justices would refuse to come to the Supreme Court.
Yes. Just, Lokur, let me just end this debate or conversation by asking you another very important question which impacts on the freedom of the press. There are now no real tort laws in this country by which you can award huge damages so that that channel, that individual journalist, that person in the public does not defame people. If you were to impose penalties of the nature that are imposed in other jurisdictions, you will stop this kind of rumor mongering that's happening in the media.
Yeah.
And I think that's the solution for the problem. I just wanted your reaction.
Yeah, you see, I am of the view that accountability is not being discussed.
Yes.
You have several different kinds of, people who might be accountable. For example, you have overcrowding in prisons. Today's newspaper tells us that Tihar jail, it's overcrowding by about 180%. Okay, who is responsible for it?
Right.
And if somebody is responsible for it, why is action not being taken?
Right.
You have fake encounters by
Yes.
the police.
Yes.
Okay, who is responsible for the fake encounter? And why is action not being taken? So
It's commended nowadays.
yeah, you probably get an expedited promotion or something. So similarly, when you have now, we've had judges who have been held accountable in a different sort of a way. One of the judges, if you remember, of the Bombay High Court a couple of years
Yes.
ago, was not confirmed.
Yes.
All right. Today, we have the Supreme Court talking about a judge of the Allahabad High Court. What kind of a judgment has he given?
Yes.
Right? So, judges in some way may not be satisfactory, but us in some way held accountable. But the others are not.
Yes.
You know,
Especially the media.
Including the media.
Siddharth.
I can't agree with that. And I'll tell you why.
including the media. I'm not saying
Yeah.
especially, but including the media. So I think that culture of accountability, should be brought about.
But that will only happen with tort law. I can say that.
Yeah, not necessary. You see, now I'll give you 2 instances. One person was kept in jail indefinitely, right? Many years ago, Rudul Shah's judgment, you would
Yes.
know. Okay, the Supreme Court said in a writ petition that he should be given compensation.
No, but those are rare cases. I'm saying
that's what I'm
generally.
saying. So make that a part of our law.
No, true, but writ courts can't really decide all these matters
Yeah,
so quickly.
yeah.
So therefore, if you allow that a court in tort to damages of 2 crores, 5 crores, all this was
No,
talked.
no, no.
There's no bar against it, but it hasn't developed the judicial.
Yeah,
That's what
yeah,
I'm trying
exactly.
to say.
But having said that, I am totally against criminal defamation being
No, I
used.
agree with you.
I think that has because that has become.
I'm talking about damages. It's when
But
it hurts your pocket.
I feel there should be no criminal defamation.
Yes.
But tort laws should be very, very tough.
That's
and they
right.
should, in fact, maybe make a provision for punitive damages.
And that message
that-
should come from the Supreme Court.
Yeah.
But,
Just two sentences. Bulldozer justice.
Well, can you imagine?
Is
Still
anybody-
going on, despite the Supreme Court order.
Yeah. Has anybody been held accountable?
No.
There's kangaroo courts.
yeah. No, on defamation, Kapil, frankly, whether there's torts or not of the kind that you want or you're saying, Mr. Anil Ambani, from 4 or 5 years ago, he filed 100 crore defamation cases. He went to Gujarat, he forum shopped because you don't have to deposit 1% of the fee. And he filed it against The Wire, of course, but also 4 or 5 different media channels. So, they do hold that sword of punitive damages over your head. I would say that one reform that we do need in civil defamation is to somehow institutionalize the Money Life versus NSC finding, the judgment, where NSC filed a defamation case against Money Life. It was a frivolous, utterly, it was a suit aimed at harassment, and it was dismissed with damages. So I say if Mr. Anil Ambani claims 100 crore from us, for example, and he loses, then he has to pay us that amount or
but
something.
Siddharth, I agree with you. I'm not saying it should be a one-sided affair. If frivolous cases are filed, there should be equal
Punitive damages.
punitive damages
Exactly.
there also. But if this kind of news is published, which ultimately, if at all, is found to be false, and I'm not talking of this case, but any case, there should be punitive damages.
Let's talk of Riya Chakravarti.
Yes, you talk of Riya.
No,
I believe
what
she's
right
going to
she
file.
has?
She's going to file.
What use
a
is
libel
it?
suit,
Who's going to listen to her? And how many years
That
will it
poor
take?
lady will spend another 10 years just following up the litigation.
No, this is not
The
acceptable.
given
This is not acceptable. So I think this is really the
No, I
solution.
agree with you that,
Solution for this kind of problem, of these kind of rumors.
Perhaps speedy hearings rather than the kind of damages you're talking.
no,
Damages anyway are claimed; they're asked for.
No,
Right?
but nobody, see, as Justice
But the
Gupta
problem
said-
is that they're just these
Justice
cases drag
Gupta
on forever.
rightly
and ever.
said, no court gives these kind of damages.
There's no concept of punitive damages.
Punitive damages, which is there in the UK, which is there in the US. So people dare not,
And
without
therefore-
without verification.
But in the UK, it's been used to, frankly speaking, stifle freedom of the press.
Oh,
the
that's
way-
all. In
yeah,
some
there's
cases,
abuse
yes,
of
you're
libel
right.
law in that country.
Yeah, but I mean,
Australia too.
Some aberrations will happen, but by and large, the system has worked.
Yeah, you forget about punitive damages. Even costs are not given.
Even costs are not given.
You know.
So there it is.
In foreign jurisdictions, most of the cases, these sort of cases are settled on costs only.
Yeah.
Yes, that's true, that's true. But be that as it may, I mean, I think that there are so many questions that have been raised, so many questions that are unanswered, so many questions that need to be answered. And this is just a little snippet of what kind of questions there are out in the public domain and how an institution like the judiciary should start protecting itself by dealing with these issues seriously. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Fascinating. Thank you.
Thank you.